Hello, everybody. It's me, Dee Dee. And every morning I read a lot of news, mainstream and not so mainstream. But this morning I was shocked to find in mainstream news, Apple News, being reported by the Telegraph and Apple that COVID was created under DARPA. It was to be a weapon. Before they released this, which they said had been leaked to them, they did the research on it and found out that they had applied under DARPA to create this virus. So now that it has been leaked, it has hit mainstream media. Apparently it is true under the DARPA program. And it only killed, what, 500,000? Only 500,000 people. So I guess creating COVID to kill off the population, killing 500,000 people just wasn't enough. Now, when you look at what the government has told us, we should not have to be experimented on, but we have been many, many times in the past, even as early as 1991. Well, now it leaks this morning, mainstream news, Apple News, as well as the Telegraph are reporting that the United States government, under the DARPA program, went to Wuhan to create this and to make it look like it was natural. Now, I've posted this to my Facebook. I don't know how long it'll be up before Facebook takes it down, but they certainly haven't fact-checked it yet like they like to do because they can't. It is true. Well, even things that are true, Facebook likes to fact-check. But now that we know it was created for sure, now, while this information was leaked to these news agencies, they didn't release it right away because they, again, wanted to research it and make sure that it was true. They did. They found an application through DARPA and the United States government to not just patent that, but make that as their own weapon so no one else could use it. Of course, we were experimented on. A lot of us have died. Some of us are suffering long-term side effects of COVID. And the newest one out, I think it's BAN something number, again, was created by the government. Now, here's the thing. I didn't agree to be experimented on. You didn't agree to be experimented on. Now that virus didn't kill enough, now it's the vaccine, the push for the vaccine. Now, I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means. My kids have had their shots. I get my shots. But this came too quickly. And if you look at the timeline of this vaccine, it was coming because not enough people were dying. They told us all these people were dying. They told us hospitals were filled up. But I traveled across the country. Florida, which they said was being hit the hardest, I remember going down I-4 at that time and the billboards for every hospital being up saying, 5-minute wait, come on in. There was nobody in those rooms. Now, I'm not saying there weren't hospitals that didn't have people in there because obviously, 500,000 people died, so we're told. But it wasn't enough because look at who they say the virus attacks. Those with health conditions, underlying health conditions, overweight, diabetic, cancers, kidney disease, all these things. Now, what do all those things have in common? They have in common that it's a drain on the health insurance companies. They have to pay out for those people. They don't want to pay out for those people. What was the other group of people affected by this virus? Those that would be collecting Social Security, your older people. Let's go ahead and take them out too while we're at it. Now, it didn't take enough out, so now we're pushing the vaccine, of which nobody knows really anything about, and which you can't sue if you have any problems with it. Zero. Now, I'm going to tell you something very scary that I found out today that you guys can all check out for yourself, too. So now that this has been leaked by mainstream media here, that this was created under DARPA, which, for those of you that don't know, DARPA is a black ops program by the U.S. government. It does exist. You can verify it through the Freedom of Information Act that's been out for a long time. So I don't believe that if you didn't give the government the right to experiment on you, I think we have the right to sue. Now, you can sue under civil rights violations. You can sue under personal injury, because if you suffered any way from COVID, you have personal injury. That's called tort law. I know a lot about the law. I'm not going to go into why, but I do. I also know that I can take this case myself into federal court. And with enough people that want to join, we can have a class action suit. Now, here's the scary thing. As I started looking up lawyers today, 8:30 this morning, because I don't believe the government had a right to experiment on me, as I started looking them up, I started finding that lawyers that take class action suits for say like employment, they're good to go. But those that take class action lawsuits against the government are no longer accepting new cases because they're now working for the government. And you can check that out yourself, because I have. I found one lawyer in my area. Now, that's not to say there's not other lawyers in other areas, but I found one. I've left him a message. It probably won't go anywhere. People don't want to get involved with this because, let's face it, they say Breitbart news agency took a heart attack on. It's scary for some of them. Other attorneys could be very liberal, and their brains could be mush, and they don't want to hear about it. It doesn't matter if it were to come out on CNN today. They don't want to hear it. But this is wrong, and it's scary. And I think if you have suffered from any kind of COVID, if your family members, anybody, if your family members have died, if you've suffered from any effects, I think it's time that we get together and we start a class action lawsuit. I am willing to file the paperwork in federal court. I know how to do it. I know how much it costs. But I would need some help. I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about people who would be willing to do some of the research papers, file some of the things in court. Not file them. I can file them, but, have them typed up. I can get it going. And maybe I can even get this lawyer to take the case. It's something y'all need to think about. And that's it. Give it some thought. Check it out.